Okay, so I want to start with the head Zizian in charge, and that is Jack Amadeus LaSorta, 34 years old. Once again, his blog read he earned a degree in computer science from the University of Alaska Fairbanks in 2013. Then he moved to San Francisco 3 years later and applied for a series of tech jobs and startup companies, including a brief internship with NASA. And yes, that is true. It has been confirmed in 2013 he did have an internship with NASA. Now, I like to sum up people with three kinds of intelligence there is book smarts, street smart, and common sense. Now, I like to think that I have common sense with a lot of old school street smarts. Which one are you? And I do like having common sense because I think common sense can pretty much get you out of, anything that you might be dealing with. If you just have common sense, and a lot of people do lack it, they do, especially the people at my job. Now, I have a feeling that Jack had been more book smart than anything. He stopped liking people, even rationalists, after watching the sitcom The Office. He faked his death with a Ziz member, Emma, calling the National Guards and saying that he had fallen over the boat that he owned, the black signet. Now, I actually had to Google signet, which is a young swan. I think it's pronounced signet. Well, anyway, it's the young swan, okay? So when the National Guards came, it was indicated that there was no body found. So they tried to search for Jack and could not find him. There was even a death notice online, an entire obituary, and I wondered how his parents felt when they read that, thinking that their child had passed away. And I was looking at his obituary, which is actually still up. And friends of Jack's parents were, giving their deepest condolences on the loss of their child. And then 2 months later, Jack was arrested for murder. I mean, what a roller coaster of emotions his parents must have been going through. First, your son died, then he's back to life, and then he killed somebody. So that is a lot that was going on there. Shortly after, I wonder how they felt, that knowing your child faked his death and now he's in jail for a murder. I mean, that's something. You'd have to wonder, would you prefer your child to have been dead or prefer your child to have killed somebody and may be in jail for a good remainder of his life? And Jack is still kind of young. So I think he's 34 now, yeah. So he might be in jail for a good amount of his life. Even though Jack preferred to be called a Sith, a reference to the evil figures in Star Wars, people who knew Jack said he was smart, he was a smart techie, and a vegan. Oh, and trans. He was trans. I suppose when he wasn't feeling like a Sith, he calls himself Andrea Phelps or Andrea Phelps, one of those, but that's the name that he had given himself. Many transgendered women who share the obsession with the dangers of artificial intelligence joined the group of the Zizians and became a Ziz. The Center for Applied Rationality began to organize gatherings in Berkeley, California in 2012. People who utilize this organization are committed to using mathematical and logical principles to improve the world, and Jack attended regularly. Quote, we saw AI as something that was really, really important that we need to get really, really right, or it could get really, really bad. We didn't know in hindsight we were creating conditions for a cult, end quote. And that was said by Anna Solomon, a co-founder of the nonprofit organization. Now, I looked a little bit into this organization. I believe it's for trans people. I mean, I don't know. It might just only be for trans women. I'm just not sure. I could be wrong. But through some of the pictures that I've seen, it appeared that it's definitely for trans. Just not sure if it's just for trans women. So this organization, it would bring young people together in large groups that had big ideas about saving humanity. They now believe that the people who attended were vulnerable to someone who might and did manipulate them. That's what they're saying. And it was Jack. So, during a month-long retreat in 2014 given by the Center of Applied Rationality, a tall, blonde, curly-headed Jack, who never came off as threatening, began, quote, espousing, end quote, Salomon's belief system with intensity that unnerved Salomon and the other staffers. Quote, I was viscerally afraid of LaSorta in a way I've never been viscerally afraid of anybody, end quote. And that is what Anna said. So Jack believed that humans have two brains, a left and a right hemisphere, and each hemisphere can be good or evil. Jack also believed that very few people, with Jack being one of them, are double good. Jack also wrote on his blog that each hemisphere can separate values and even genders, and they often desire to kill each other. Quote, reaching peace between hemispheres with conflicting interests is a tricky process. Repeatedly reconstruction frames of game theory and decision theory in light of realization of them having strategically damaged by your headmate, end quote. That is what he had said on his blog. He also said, sometimes cops harass me for wearing my religious attire as a Sith. I'm religiously required to do whatever I want to do, and no, that happens to be wearing black robes. And people would follow Jack, so they liked Jack for whatever reasons. They felt whatever it was he was talking about. For an amount of time, the Zizians, they lived on a tugboat docked at a pier near Half Moon Bay in San Francisco area, but they were unhappy. That's when they would move on Curtis Lind property, buying small moving vans, changing them into places to live, and nobody would know where they were. That's what they said. So they wanted to be hidden. By this time, Jack's relationship with the Center of Applied Rationality soured. On November 19, 2019, Jack was 28 then, and they arrived to a function that the Center of Applied Rationality was having. Jack and 3 others were wearing masks. The V for Vendetta mask. Remember the anonymous masks? That's what they were wearing. And, this organization knew that it was going to be a problem, so they blocked the entrance so they could not enter, and they called the police. The 4 were charged with felony criminal conspiracy and 5 misdemeanors, including imprisonment. They hired a lawyer, Gerald Jerry Friedman, because he was a vegan. He also is a lawyer for animal rights as well, and I like that, Jerry. I like that a lot. And they filed a lawsuit on the retreat, the Sonoma County deputies, saying that they were falsely arrested, and the police made Jack strip naked, and he was mocked for being trans. That is what Jack said. And that's when, remember, that summer of 2022, he was presumed dead. When 2 months later on Curtis Lynn's land, the 80-year-old property owner is being stabbed after they bum rushed him, and they stabbed him repeatedly with a samurai sword, which is crazy. And he lost his eye. But things would get worse for Lind, and I will tell you more story about Curtis Lynn in the upcoming stories I have about the Ziz cult members. However, Lynn managed to shoot 2 of them, killing Emma Borhanian. 2 months later, there was a double killing at the Zacco residence in Chester Heights, a Philadelphia suburb, where Rita and Richard Zacco were murdered. So apparently, this couple was killed on or around New Year's Day. After some detective work, they arrived at a nearby hotel where Michelle, the daughter of the Zaccos, another trans, refused to open the door. The police came back with the warrants and forced the door open. Michelle told the police to tell Daniel Blank that she was being detained. 2 people were locked in a bathroom. Blank left willingly, but not Jack. They gave Jack commands, and he did not listen, eyes closed. He was just laying there looking like he was dead on the ground. He even played dead during his mugshot that was taken. In June 2023, he was released on a $10,000 bond, but never returned back to court. Friedman said he didn't know where LaSorta was. Quote, I represent vegans. We believe in nonviolence. All of this is just crazy, end quote. So, the head and founding member, Jack Amadeus LaSorta, sits in jail where he is listed as a male inmate. And his other boat, the Caleb, has been abandoned and is sinking near Half Moon Bay. So next up, I will have Emma Borhanian, one of the members that was murdered by someone else. And there was another one too. And I will get to that in the upcoming, details of the other members of the Ziz. If you don't know anything about it, I got it for you. And remember, Emma was the one that was murdered by the property owner, Lind, in self-defense.